Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sharon Whiteman. Been connected to Manatech for over 20 years now, 23, could be 24 this year. No, 23 in November. And it's blessed my life on so many levels. And I love being here each and every week with my co-hosts, Diana Hunter and Gary Knapp. And today we're in for a treat as Diana is our special guest speaker. So a big warm welcome to everyone that's here. We know that giving this, whether you're listening here live today or contributing today, or in the future, it takes a village to get this education out to the people that really need it. And, some people may, until you have a real life-changing experience with these, the nutritional phytosterols or the nutritional glycans on how that helps your foundational well-being, you may reject what I'm about to say, but people are out there praying for what we have. People are out there having experiences and they don't know that they can have access quite easily to something that might really take away the pain of what they're experiencing right now and put the power back into their hands. As a former ICU nurse, I know Western medicine is only part of the picture, an important part of the picture, but it's not the total solution for our vibrant well-being in the 21st century. So today we have Diana Hunter. She's a simply outstanding educator with the ability to make complex items simple. She pursued a passionate interest in complementary health for over 30 years, initially driven by her own health challenges and then by her genuine desire to assist others in maintaining good health naturally. Diana holds an associate diploma in allied health, a certificate in basic nutrition and health, and is a successful fat loss coach. She has assisted hundreds of people with their wellness goals through utilizing Manatech real food nutritional products. In this presentation today, we'll be focusing on the power of nutrition for our hormone health. And as I just said before, we have way more power than we're aware of, power in our own hands to take full charge of our health and well-being. So Diana, thank you so very much for always saying yes. And I will go off camera. You just call on me if you need me.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Sharon, for that warm introduction. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be here with all of you. With our focus, actually, it's Women's Health Week. So we have a focus on, as Sharon said, how women can take the power back in their own hands in regard to their hormonal well-being. What are the nutritional and lifestyle choices that you can make to help have a healthier balance, a happier balance in regard to your hormonal life? So I'm just going to share my screen. Yeah, and I'll make that, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to start with asking a few relevant questions to our hormonal life. Do you experience any stress in your life? I don't think anyone these days could say no, and particularly women. Women are often multitasking, putting added pressure on themselves, and we're all, particularly in Australia at the moment, under incredible life restrictions, life changes for many, and that is and can be added stress. Could you benefit from some added support to your mood, to how you feel? I know many women would say yes, and if you have any hormonal imbalances happening, this is often a key issue for women. Do you experience any menstrual or menopausal symptoms? Would you like to improve your sleep? Our sleep is so important for hormonal health, and I'll cover more about that in a moment. And what difference would it make if you had a bit more energy in your day? As I said, we're all trying to fit a lot in our day these days, to have that extra energy to get through our agenda. And just in general, would you like to feel more confident about your overall well-being and what you can do to increase that confidence under, in your particular life situation? So our hormones are all about a big balancing act. They balance, modulate many aspects of our health experience, aspects of our health that tend to go up or down, or worse or better, like sleep, our level of joy, our sex drive, our hunger, fat metabolism, cognitive function, our mood, our body temperature, how we manage inflammation in our body is all balanced out and modulated by our hormonal system. So we're focusing on, let's see if I can get to the next slide. Here we go. We're focusing on women's health today. So this is a graphic of the female hormonal system with some of the major glands or hormonal glands that we have in our body. They're called endocrine glands or endocrine system in medical terms, and you'll be familiar with many of them pictured here: our pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, pancreas, the adrenal glands, which sit on top of the kidneys, and of course the ovaries. And the glands excrete hormones into our blood. The bloodstream takes it around to targeted areas in our body to create balance or stimulate some form of action at that part of the body. So we have around 87 hormones circulating in our body. So we're all hormonal all of the time. It's just when they get out of balance that we start to notice, we get those symptoms. Of the 87 hormones, only 15 of them are related to reproductive and sexual health, if you like. And between men and women, there's only two that differ. And that, of course, is the estrogen and the aldosterone group, which contains the testosterone. And our hormones don't live in isolation. They live in relationship. They communicate with each other. They act like a family in some ways. And so within our body, we have, very generally speaking, two main nutritional bases of our hormones. This particular hormone base is lipid-based. It's called the steroid hormones. And you can see in this graphic over here, there's a chain of events that happens. And in science, they call it the hormonal cascade, because now in the steroid hormones, this is just a few of the hormones that are in that cascade. If I had the whole list, it'd cover this slide, because what happens is the body converts one hormone to the next. So as I said, there's an interrelationship that happens in the hormonal cycle. The point I wanted to feature on this slide is that cholesterol is the food, is the nutritional base, the lipid base, high steroid hormone production. And so cholesterol has been demonized a bit and made the bad guy, but we actually need cholesterol for the production of the entire steroid hormone cycle. Now, phytosterols, you see them listed up here at the top. Phytosterols are plant nutrients, so nutritional aspects within plants that act as food, nutrition for our hormones, and they act very similarly to cholesterol. And in this pathway, you'll see that after pregnenolone, it splits off into two pathways, the DHEA pathway and the progesterone pathway. And you can see all the aspects of health that this hormone production affects: male and female development, inflammation, blood pressure, blood sugar, bone maintenance, heart protection, etc. Another thing I wanted to highlight is that we replenish our hormones in our sleep. So the quality and the quantity of our sleep is a primary influence on the amount of energy, the quality of our immune health, our appetite, and our coping ability for the following day. So having adequate sleep is really important for hormonal health and hormonal balance. Next slide. I want to focus in on the phytosterols for a moment. Phytosterols, or plant sterols, are very structurally similar to cholesterol. So they act as food for our hormones. The other significant thing about phytosterols is they reduce the absorption of cholesterol in the digestive tract. So they limit the amount of cholesterol that is absorbed into the bloodstream. So you have a healthy balance of cholesterol in your blood, and then that can be utilized for hormonal production. In regard to phytosterols, in ancestral diet, these phytosterols are abundant. They had a healthy amount of phytosterol content in their food. But unfortunately, our modern diet has been significantly depleted from a whole range of nutrition, including phytosterols. And the typical modern diet is relatively low in phytosterol. So if you're not getting adequate phytosterols in your diet, it could be impacting your hormonal health and the ability of your body to balance and modulate. So in regard to women's health, and two of the main areas of women's health is menstrual health and health during menopause, the key hormones involved here are estrogen and progesterone. Now, estrogen and progesterone are produced in the egg follicles in the ovaries. And these hormones are vital for normal reproductive health and fertility. Now, when we have menstrual symptoms or PMS, it's because there's an imbalance of estrogen and progesterone in our system. And anyone who's had those kind of symptoms would know that it affects our mood. We can feel irritable, and you can end up with either heavy bleeding or significant menstrual pain. In menopause, what happens is that we no longer have the ovum, the eggs within the ovaries. And so we're not able to produce the same levels of estrogen and progesterone we did in our younger years. And that leads to a whole range of other symptoms like hot flushes, memory problems, mood swings. And again, I'm sure there's women on this call today who've had and experienced those kind of uncomfortable symptoms. So once we're in menopause, our body does have a backup system within the hormonal cascade. As I said, the body's converting hormones. So it does have a backup system within the DHA pathway. And the other backup system is through our stored fat. So ladies, it's okay to have some stored fat. We need it, particularly in menopause, because our body utilizes the stored fat to produce some estrogen amounts during the menopause. The other thing I wanted to highlight in regard to hormones is there is a cycle, a feedback cycle or loop, if you like, that goes on within hormonal communication. So this is just one example of many in the body, and it's related to the ovulation, part of the ovulation cycle. And you can see here the pituitary gland, which is in the mid part of the brain, it releases luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, and it tells the ovaries, okay, I want you to release some estrogen to start preparing the endometrium, the lining of our uterus, for a potential pregnancy. And of course, if the pregnancy doesn't happen, then the endometrium sloughs off, and that's when we have our menstrual cycle. And you can see once the estrogen is released, it communicates that back up to another gland in our brain and also down to the endometrium. So as I said, there's a feedback loop. So if you could imagine for a moment, if you were adding a chemical estrogen, a drug, into the body, that's going to affect this feedback communication to other glands in the body. And sometimes it's better wherever possible if you can support your body with nutrients and lifestyle factors that can support the hormonal balance rather than adding chemical hormones into the system. So with that, I'd like to invite a couple of my guest speakers to share with you their personal stories of what experiences they have with their hormonal system or their hormonal cycles, and what they did to make a difference and to help bring that back into balance. And I'd just like to ask everyone who's tuning in this morning to hold these women in your heart. If we've had imbalanced hormonal issues. It's a very personal thing, and it can also be a very emotional experience, as some of you may know. So we hold these women in our heart, and I really want to acknowledge them for having courage, for stepping forward and sharing their story with you today for the benefit of others. So I'll just stop my share screen so I can invite Christine. Thanks, Christine.
Thanks. It's funny, when you were talking about the hormonal system and the cortisol, I could, as soon as you mentioned my name, I could feel that system starting to work and produce that cortisol of stress. So it's something that I've learned a lot about. So my story starts about 15 years ago. I went to a doctor because I had a chronic, and not knowing anything about wellness or anything like that, I trusted my doctor, and my doctor referred me to a gastroenterologist. And after a colonoscopy and all sorts of other discussions, he prescribed a steroid for me. And I just trusted him. So I took that steroid, and unfortunately the situation arose again. So I went back, and he just said, oh, you're going to have to be on a steroid for the rest of your life. Now, I had a friend who was on steroids, and she was very puffed up, and I thought, I'm addicted to chocolate. I don't need any more puffing up than I already have. So I actually was very lucky. At the same time, a family friend who'd experienced her own recovery from a bowel disease and surgery introduced me to the beautiful Kelly and Manatech, and Kelly put together a starter pack for me, and that included Ambrotose for the repair of the tissue and immune support, because I had, which was caused by stress, and so that needed to be repaired. She also suggested a probiotic to support my digestive system, a vitamin and mineral for my general health, an antioxidant for the free radicals, and Plus. Now, I didn't know what Plus was. I just took it with blind faith. I had no idea what it was going to do. But within 2 weeks of getting on that program, my symptoms were gone. And that was good enough alone. But the best result was that after 3 months, I noticed that I didn't have hot flushes anymore. And I was expecting to have hot flushes for 12 years because I, like my mum, started menopause all early. And so hot flushes were something that she was used to. And when I told her that my hot flushes are gone, she said, well, when did they stop? And I said, I don't know. I just noticed I don't have them anymore. So what I think was happening was that the support that I was getting from Plus, which was working on my endocrine system, gradually started my system working properly again. So it balanced out my flushes. So that was wonderful. So apart from the health for my gut, the education that I got from Manatech and the friends that I have made and the health that I have got means that I just will never, ever go off these products, because I started 15 years ago with the chronic and hot flushes. And in the last job that I just left, I went 14 years without a day off sick. Now, I hardly know anybody that's ever gone 14 days without a sick day, but from chronic sickness to nothing, I have such good health now that I will never, ever go off Manatech, but especially Plus. So thank you, Manatech.
Thank you, Christine. I'm sure your story has been a benefit to our listeners today, and appreciate you showing up and being sharing your authentic self.
Thank you.
All right, and I'm going to ask Marika now. Marika is beaming in from Western Australia.
Thank you. So my health journey started in 2017 after I had a significant hormonal imbalance, just to find out that I was pregnant and to lose our second baby. So battling with my self-worth and the loss of our baby and the simple symptoms of this hormonal imbalance condition, like weight gain, hair loss, acne, high cholesterol, and breast lumps prior to that, I did the thing that any normal person would do, and I saw a doctor and he prescribed me some drugs. I was put on birth control drugs, which wasn't good for my breast lumps, but and antidepressants and cholesterol pills. But soon after that, my health took a turn, but a wrong turn. I've been put on these drugs that I had multiple side effects of. So I've stopped using them after I've lost, or my vision got poorer and my lumps got bigger. And I had 24 hours of pain, back pain, just to be put on pain medicine again. And like I said, my breast lumps got larger. I had to see the doctor every 6 months, a radiologist, for my 6 months checkup for my breast. And she suggested that I use some fish oils. So I did, and I bought myself some from the pharmacy. And in August 2018, when I went back, she told me that my lumps were bigger. So you could imagine how mentally exhausted I was, walking around unhealthy, feeling ugly, unworthy, and fat. But then a friend introduced me to fish oil and Phytosterols in December 2018. And I could feel the change immediately. My mood was better. When I stand up, or when I wake up in the morning and I had to stand up, it didn't feel like I was dizzy anymore. I could start moving again like a normal person. My son would laugh at me when we went for a walk, and I couldn't walk with him because I couldn't breathe. And my husband was like, "You're old. There's old people walking in front of you, like, and you're like," and I'm like, I couldn't do that anymore. And since I've been on this products, I can walk on the beach, I can dance with my son, and I feel better. My hair is the longest in 10 years. I feel vibrant, my acne, all the symptoms of this hormonal imbalance condition is under control, and I'm ready for the next 60 years. So thanks, Diana, for the privilege to talk, and yes, have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, Rika. It's a blessing to have you, and I'm sure your story has given hope to many women who are listening now or in the future. So thank you so much. I'll go back to my presentation, and I will have a couple of more guest speakers in just a little while. So Christine talked about the cortisol and in preparing for this morning in the last half hour, I could feel that cortisol as well, Christine. So thanks for bringing that up. And cortisol is generated from our adrenal glands along with other hormones like, adrenaline. And originally, the adrenal glands were to support us, our ancestors, in the fight and flight response. When we have stress, we have the energy that is pushed forward to respond, energy to respond to danger. Unfortunately, modern stress, which, as I mentioned earlier, most of us are under these days, our body, our adrenals respond to that stress the same. But it doesn't get switched off, and it ends up causing what's called adrenal fatigue. And you can see some of the impacts on our health that adrenal fatigue can have. They govern memory, quality of sleep, our thyroid function. So people who have thyroid issues, often they've had adrenal stress prior to that. Not always, but often had adrenal stress. As I said, our hormones or our endocrine glands are working in relationship. It puts pressure on the thyroid gland, and then the thyroid gland shows up as having problems, affecting our immune health, fertility, bone health, blood pressure. So anything that can back up and support and nourish our adrenal health, adrenal function, is going to support us in managing life stresses. The other area of pressure on our hormonal health is chemical stress. There's many chemicals that are man-made chemicals that are in our environment that we're exposed to that impact our hormonal system. They're called endocrine disruptors because they mimic or block our hormones. So these could be from chemicals, such as pesticides, and even in our cosmetics that we put on our skin. If they're not healthy or organic products, they can have some of these hormone disruptors in them. Some pharmaceuticals that perhaps we need to take for our well-being also may affect the balance of our hormones. Plastics, I think many people are aware now that there's been components in plastics called plasticizers, and a well-known one is BPA. Don't ask me to say the full chemical name because it's a long one, but it's in clear plastic bottles and containers, and it acts like a xenohormone. It mimics our hormones and it disrupts our female hormone experience. And then we have the impact of artificial perfumes. So essential oils from plants can actually help and support our hormonal health and give us good hormonal response. But artificial perfumes, our body is designed to respond with our hormonal system to scent. It's part of the survival mechanism. It's part of attraction to our partner is the natural scent. So, but when we're using artificial perfumes, it confuses our natural hormones. So if you're adding products onto your body, just maybe seek out ones that have essential oils rather than artificial perfumes. So I have a couple of more guest speakers, and both of these ladies had significant stress on top of their already impacted hormonal system. And I'd love to hear your stories, because their stories, because I know that they're going to also help our listeners today. So I'll again stop the share, and that I might bring Julie on. So if you can share your story. I know you've got a story of hormonal health, but also the impact of stress on your life and what you've done to support yourself.
Okay. So good morning, everybody, and thank you, Diana, for the opportunity to share my experience with these phytosterols that you've been talking about. And they certainly have been a powerful game changer for me 3 times, like while I was menstruating, then when I went through menopause, and then when I went through a very stressful time in my life. And just quickly, my menopause, my menstrual cycle, I didn't realise until I was, that I actually relied on my premenstrual tension symptoms to let me know when my period was due. And I started on these phytosterols, and I experienced really sore, tender breasts before my period. That was my main discomfort. And even just to touch my chest hurt. So I knew well and truly that, when my period was coming. So when I started taking these phytosterols, the symptoms disappeared. So I didn't know when my period was due. So then I had to resort to marking it on the calendar just so that I knew. And I thought back and I thought, all those years I had my period, and there I was relying on symptoms to tell me when my cycle was coming. So with menopause, hot flushes were my issue. And of course, by that time I'd been educated through calls like this that, when that time of our life comes, that we might need some more support. So I knew to actually increase and support my body at that time with extra phytosterols, which I did. And then my hot flushes went away and they've never come back. And I'm 67 years old now. And I look at people, a lot younger than me and older than me that are dealing with these hot flushes, and I think, wow, these phytosterols are really life-changing, because I think, well, that could have been me had I not been supporting my body with these nutrients. And then 9 years ago, I went through a really, really stressful time in my life. My husband became really, really ill. And within 10 months, he passed away. And in that same time period, both my parents died. So it was, to say the least, a very awful, stressful time. And that left me very stressed, of course. And I just felt really, really fragile. I've never felt so fragile in my life. And the other thing that I experienced was a real jittery, nervous sort of an experience that was in my chest, and it just wouldn't go away. It was there all the time. And even though I'd been still continued taking these phytosterols, it obviously wasn't enough, and I didn't have the education, or I hadn't joined the dots that stress depletes our bodies of nutrition that we so much need. And then through the help and encouragement of my Manatech family and friends, I increased the amount that I was taking, and then I kept increasing it until that jittery feeling settled down and I was starting to feel stronger. And then, you know, and then I felt like I could cope with, you know, with what I had to deal with going through the grief. So I just think that phytosterols, they were just a godsend for me. And I just don't know how I would get through that time if I didn't have them. And I find myself even now getting a bit edgy if I'm running low and my order hasn't come, and I think, oh no, you know, because I just don't want to go a day without them because I know the difference that they make. So that's me, Diana.
Thank you, Julie. And I appreciate your vulnerability, and I'm sure everyone on this call does too, just to, you know, I know many people who've been on this phytosterols regularly feel like they are a godsend. So thanks for sharing your authentic self, Julie. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kim.
Well, I was introduced to the phytosterols as I searched for a way to help my younger son focus better in class. After completing a program, the clinician mentioned that some of his clients had made significant improvements by taking phytosterols, or nutrients for our endocrine system. Since there was a benefit for both of us, we began taking them. Within a month, my son's teacher commented that she could see a marked difference in my son's behaviour and focus. I felt calmer in myself, and my husband was glad to have me continue using them, quoting the old adage, happy wife, happy life. It also seemed to help me with a tendency I had to have sudden drops in blood sugar levels, especially if I wasn't eating regularly. And that was often a bit tricky as I went from the classroom to playground duty. Later on, as the company brought out new products, we added them in. The glycans were some of the first we added. And that's when I became really excited about the power they had, aligning it with God's design, as 5 of the 8 glycans were present in breast milk. Many years later, however, the most stressful day of our lives as parents coincided with me experiencing the fullest force of menopause imaginable, when our younger son had a mental health episode, and we found ourselves totally without voice or power under the mental health system. Prior to that time, phytosterols had assisted me with monthly pain and discomfort, but with menopause, I needed to increase the amount I was taking through the day just to cope with the emotional hurdles that we faced. Antidepressants were offered, but I stayed on track with the phytosterols and the glycans, simply adding more when anxiety levels were high. I'm forever grateful to the man who introduced me to these products, and I know that my emotional needs have been supported through these plant-based sterols and the glycans, which particularly contributed to great healing when I had my back fused in 2012. Thank you especially, Diana, as advisor and friend, for inviting me to share today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. That's a powerful story. And like Julie mentioned, you know, sometimes if we're under added stress, just increasing our nutrition can make an incredible difference. Again, thank you for your authenticity and sharing your heart and your family story there. I know that it's helped our listeners. So we're back to my presentation. So my guest speakers have talked about adding nutrition into their diet to support their hormonal balance and their hormonal health. I'm going to focus on four categories of nutrition that some of the ladies have referred to that are part of, I guess, a complex of nutrition that helps hormonal health. And of course, we've talked about the phytosterols, the omega-3 fatty acids, which is commonly used fish oil to get your omega-3s, vitamins and minerals, and nutritional glycans, which may be a new area of nutrition for you to hear about. So I'm going to start there. Nutritional glycans are the basis of all communication within our body. Now, this is a graphic of a cell. This is the cell membrane. And through the membrane of every cell in our body are these little antenna-like structures. They look like a forest under an electron microscope. They're made up of a protein chain with a sugar attached, and that's called a glycoprotein, sugar and protein, or a lipid with the glycan attached, forming a glycolipid. And what happens is the cells come up, rub up against each other and pass information like a coded language. I call it cellular braille. And this is the foundation of the communication of all structure and all function in the body. And significant to our focus for today is that some hormones are in and of themselves glycoproteins. I'll give you a couple of examples in a moment. Of the 200 carbohydrates in nature, only 8 have this communication function on the cell's surface. So how important are these glycans for women's health? I've just got a few examples here. So we've got fertilization of an egg, the sperm to the ovum. This is done by cell-to-cell communication. These glycan structures on the cell surface of these cells is how that communication, the connection, and ultimately fertilization occurs. Kim's referred to this, human mother's breast milk. The very nurturance of the beginning of life is rich in these nutritional glycans. 5 of the 8 nutritional glycans are in mother's breast milk. No food on our planet contains all 8 glycans. They're spread throughout the food categories of various foods on the planet. But human mother's breast milk is the richest source of glycan. Now, I mentioned some hormones are glycoproteins. Earlier, I said that there's 2 key bases to nutritional molecular structure in the body. So we have the steroid hormone, which is lipid-based or fat-based, and we have other hormones that are protein-based. Within the protein-based hormones, some of those hormones are glycoproteins. They require a glycan and a protein to be connected. And thyroid stimulating hormone is a glycoprotein. So how many people do you hear these days who have thyroid issues? So important that they have an adequate glycans on board to be supporting proper thyroid stimulating hormone production. Luteinizing hormone. Now, I referred to that in that flow chart earlier, that luteinizing hormone is released from the pituitary and communicates down to the ovaries to say, start getting ready for ovulation. So it's part of the ovulation cycle. This luteinizing hormone is in and of itself a glycoprotein. Another hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin, you don't need to remember that. It's produced in the placenta, and it is a hormone that supports healthy pregnancy and healthy development during pregnancy. It is glycan. So this is how foundational the glycans can be to women's health and to hormonal balance, hormonal production. I'd like, for those of you who aren't familiar, who are listening today with our nutritional products, the company is Manitech, and they're a 25-year-old international research and development company. They specialize in nutritional products that are derived from food sources wherever possible. They're world leaders in this area of nutritional glycan supplements, and they have the highest standards of quality control and production. It's a pharmaceutical standard nutritional product, guaranteed free of any chemical impurities. And they have a high commitment to science, so that you can be assured that when you're putting their nutritional products in your body, that they have a high level of efficacy. You've heard this through some of our guest speakers today, and that they're safe. They're safe alongside other nutrients or drugs that you might need to be taking, and they're safe to put in your body. So in regard to nutritional glycans, the core product here is called Ambrotose, and it's the only plant-based supplement of the 8 known nutritional glycans that's available worldwide. It has a 25-year proven track record. Again, you've heard some of those results today, and it really is the foundation for cellular communication in our body. And it's backed by solid science. We know it supports our immune health, that cellular communication, brain function. So again, in women's health, we want to have clarity of mind and support in our mood. We know that nutritional glycans support mood and decrease irritability. They also have an action in supporting digestive health. And as I mentioned a moment ago, they're part of some of the hormonal makeup. Now, this is the heart, I guess, of our presentation today, the Phytosterols. The product's called Plus. I guess it's the queen of the story today. And it contains a high concentration of these plant sterols from a specific species of Mexican wild yam called Dioscorea villosa. And it's known in the scientific literature to support hormonal health. It acts as a modulator. It balances, provides the nutrition to our body to balance the hormonal, and we're talking about the steroid hormonal cascade. It also has some of the nutritional glycans in there. We know it can support breast, prostate, bone, and colon health. Brings balance to the immune, nervous system, and cardiovascular system, and provide relief from menstrual symptoms. You heard that in our stories today. And we also know that it supports and backs up the adrenals. Again, that first place of impact of stress in our body. These phytosterols, nutritional glycans, support adrenal function. And then we have the omega-3 fatty acids. So there's various sources of omega-3s in our food, but the richest source, the highest concentration source, is in fish oil. But there's oils and there's oils out there. And you would have heard in Marika's story, she tried a fish oil initially and her situation got worse. Unfortunately, our oceans are polluted. The oceans have chemicals. Those chemicals get into the fish. And if we're taking fish oil that isn't distilled, really cleaned perfectly of those chemicals, we're going to be adding those chemicals into our body. The other thing with fish oils, they often have added oils in there, and they're not pure fish oils. This Manitex Essential Source Omega-3 is pure fish oil. It's been triple distilled. There is 0 chemicals in there. And we know that these essential fatty acids of omega-3 are important for brain function, cardiovascular health, immune health, and fetal brain development. And again, we know that they're vital as part of the cellular communication process and as food for the food complex, the nutritional complex for hormonal health and hormonal balance. This product has added vitamin D3 because the science has shown that D3 contributes to bone health. And the other point about omega-3s that I'd like to point out is they're significantly depleted in our modern diet. In ancestral diet, you'll see here, there was a fairly good balance between omega-6 and omega-3s. Now in our modern diet, with all the vegetable oils that are available and the depleted amount of omega-3s in our diet, you can see the imbalance that's happened. Unfortunately, high amounts of omega-6 cause inflammation in the body, and certainly a depleted amount of omega-3s to support hormonal balance. And then the other category of nutrition that helps, or complex of nutrients that helps with hormonal health, of course, is the vitamins and minerals. This product is called Essentials Catalyst. So it's really aptly named because vitamins and minerals act as catalysts for a whole range of biological activity in our body, and they are essential for this activity. This product has 29 vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. And significantly, there's good amounts of vitamin Bs and magnesium, which are particularly important as part of the nutritional complex for hormonal health. You can see there's also nutrition that supports with metabolism, energy, growth and development, bone health, and nervous system maintenance. I also would like to focus on the issue of bone density and our hormones, because there's a real myth out there about that we need to increase our calcium intake in menopause because of bone health. So you can see this is a picture, an X-ray of a bone. So obviously this is a bone with strong, healthy structure. And this over here is an osteoporotic bone. You can see the depletion in integrity of that bone, and it doesn't take much to imagine that it would be easier to break that bone if you put pressure on it. The fact is, with bone density, it tends to be an issue once we reach menopause, and the reason is because our hormones deplete. Our progesterone and our estrogen depletes in menopause. Maintenance of bone density is actually related to our hormones. Progesterone is essential for building bone, and estrogen is essential for maintaining bone density. So, particularly, to keep strong bone health throughout our youth, but in addition, in menopause, to provide the nutritional basis for good hormonal production. Yes, we need the minerals. We need to have minerals, calcium, magnesium, and other minerals, manganese, in our diet as well, but they're not going to have good action in our body if we don't have healthy hormonal base happening as well. I'd like to refer you, and I really want to encourage everyone who's listening today to go to this website, drnugent.com. Dr. Steve Nugent is an international educator on nutrition and health, and he has a podcast area on his website, and he has one there on calcium. Do yourself a favor, go and read his education about what levels of calcium we need with our magnesium and how this is all utilized in our body and the best way to go about managing calcium intake. He also has a podcast about magnesium, and I'd encourage you to go and read that. They have it transcribed, so you can read the transcription or listen to the audio. So you've got options there. So there was a 14-year study that was done on people who were utilizing these nutritional products over this long period of time. And it was done by a scientist, Dr. Gil Katz, and he wrote a report called Restructuring Body Composition. So he did over 8,000 DEXA scans. So the DEXA scan is the scan you have when you have your bone density tested, and blood tests for people taking these supplements. And he concluded that the study suggests that taking these glycan supplements can improve bone strength and bone mineral density, can aid in the reduction of excess body fat, can help maintain our lean muscle, so important for our metabolism and our overall well-being, facilitate or maintain healthy cholesterol levels. People just reported they felt better, and you heard that from our ladies today. And it also shown to improve immune health, and that was measured by C-reactive protein levels in the blood. We also have had many studies since this study showing the benefits of our glycan products to immune health. So moving towards a conclusion, these are the lifestyle choices that you can integrate for experiencing happier, healthier hormonal life. So we're starting with nutritional choices. Obviously, a healthy, balanced diet is the first cab off the rank. Adding in intelligent supplementation, supplements you know have a track record to support overall health and particularly hormonal health, including healthy fats, reducing those omega-6s, those vegetable oils, including saturated fats. You heard there, cholesterol is part of the hormonal production mechanism. So including some saturated fats in your diet, and also the omega-3s through the fish oil, and omega-9 is also helpful, and olive oil would be a good example of a rich source of omega-9. Eating low glycemic, this is choosing foods in the carbohydrate group that keep your blood sugar on an even keel. So whoever invited you to this call, they'll be able to give you more information about that. But it is so foundational to our overall health and hormonal balance. Integrating some form of regular activity, exercise. And it's been shown scientifically that resistance exercise, where you're pushing up either with weights or maybe yoga, anywhere where you're causing a resistance, causes the bone to create bone, to establish bone. Adequate sleep. There's a lot of science, multiple scientific studies showing that we need about 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. So if you're going to bed late, then you may want to rethink that and make sure you're getting adequate sleep, because our hormones are produced in our sleep. Increasing joy in your life, integrating activities that reduce stress and integrate joy. You know, the happy hormones, release some of those endorphins and support that hormonal well-being, that sense of feeling good. Increase your exposure to sunlight can do this too. It helps in the production of serotonin, which is from your pineal gland in the brain. That helps a sense of calm and these feelings of well-being. You can choose your times and how much. 20 minutes a day of sunlight in the early or late part of the day is really health-giving to the body. And then reducing your exposure to these hormone disruptors, to chemicals, to perfumes, to plastic use, so that you're not having this added pressure on your hormones or having blocks to hormonal health. So I know in the heart of most women is wanting to make a difference, wanting to give back, wanting to take care of children. And the heart of this company is to do exactly that. I call it our Nourish Yourself, Nourish Your Child program. They call it the M5M Foundation. So whenever our customers are buying product on a regular basis to take care of their own health or their family's health, the company on your behalf provides nutritional supplement to malnourished child somewhere in the world. If you were, for example, using our Ambrotose product and the Plus product every month, you'd be providing nutrition to a child like Aura here and Ingrid on the right for a whole month. And you can see the return to well-being, the return to thriving that they have through adding nutrition into their diet. Look at the transformation of this little girl, Aura, on the left and Ingrid on the right. So bringing this to a close, I hope you've seen and heard from our guest speakers today that the power is in our hands. There are lifestyle choices that we can make. There are choices we can make to add nutritional support into our life that has a proven track record that can really help with your hormonal well-being, your hormonal balance and happiness. So reach out to the person who invited you to listen to this today. Have a chat with them. They're best positioned to advise you and guide you on what your best choices are. So with that, Sharon, I'll hand back to you and you can bring this to a close.
Diana, how powerful was that? We've got extensive comments in the chat, about how moving and how authentic our guest speakers were and how powerful your education is. So thank you so very much. I know that's going to make a difference. And yeah, well, farewell to everybody's here today. And next week we're having one focused on how to talk about Ambrotose. So if you feel like you've been assisted by Ambrotose and you don't really know how to describe that to someone else, then it might be the call for you. So we'll see you next week. And Diana, thank you again. Spectacular job.
My pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.